Hello and welcome back to day 14 of Mule in-depth training. Okay, so day 13, we have just started with basics of dataweave. We will continue the same thing here. This day is a continuation of yesterday. We'll start working on the same project. So here, today, you'll understand how to externalize your functions and variables to a custom module. What is a custom data view module? How to create your own data view modules, how to import modules, and most importantly, how to pass one function as an argument to another function. Very important. If you understand how to pass and how to use function arguments, then it is data will become very easy. We are going to understand this important thing. And then we will see various important functions in a module called as strings module. And also we will discuss how to configure strongly typed function arguments. And most importantly, we'll understand about existing functions called as filter Orderby. During this discussion, you will get a very good idea about dataweave. And then we will see finally how to chain functions in DWL. So without wasting time, let us get started. Okay. So this is a continuation of the earlier day 13 video. In earlier video, we understood how to create variables and functions. Okay. To be clear, let me delete this. Okay, these are variables and functions. Whatever function I defined within this transform message component, they are local. These variables and functions are local to this transform message. Suppose in the same project, somewhere I have another transform message. I cannot call that functions which are defined inside this transform message. That means the functions and variables declared within this transform message are local to this transformation only. But what if I want to define a reusable function which can be used anywhere within the project? Yes. So for that, what we can do is we can create a custom data view function module. What do I mean? Very simple. If you want to define a data view function module, what you can do is you can create a new, I'll create a new folder. I'll write my modules. And then here I'll create a new file. I can give any name. I'll give custom modules .dwl. The extension should be .dwl. Okay, in this file with extension .dwl, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this transform message, cut all the variables and functions here and paste inside this DWL file. Okay, my functions defined here and variables are also defined here. How to use these functions defined here in my transform message? Very simple. If you see in this transform message component, I'm getting this errors. So what I have to do is if I want to use functions or variables defined inside a separate custom data view module, this file I'll call it as data view module. What I have to do is I have to import. I will write import star from. So the folder name is my modules in class path. SRC main resources means it is in class path. So if there is anything in class path, I can directly use it. I'll write my modules colon custom control space. If I press automatically, it is filled. So I'm saying import everything from this file. Then what I can do, I can call the functions like this. But the error is gone, but I can see two issues found. What is it saying? Unable to resolve the reference of name. So what I have to do is whenever I want to use anything present in this module, I have to use the module name, that means the file name, colon we get offer price. Unable to resolve. Is it not there? Yes, it is there. Why is it giving an error? Import, if I just say import, instead of saying import star from, I'll just say import. Okay, now this is fine. Okay, here name is giving an error. Now I will use again custom modules colon name. So whenever you use import, this is the syntax to import. And whenever you're referencing or calling a function or a variable in that module, you have to use the syntax like this. But I don't want to use this prefix every time. I'll delete them. What I can do is I can say import star from. Okay. Now, there is no error here. What is it saying? Unable to resolve the reference of payload. Payload is an implicit object, right? It is saying it is not able to resolve. So actually the problem is whenever you are using a DWL file here, you should never directly use payload. That is a problem. Because in this DWL file, we have to write reusable functions, reusable variables. So never write something like payload. Don't expect something like payload. This is not valid. I will remove this. So I'll go to my DWL file and here I'll just write payload.name simply. I don't want to use that variable. Okay. Now the error is gone. So whenever you are using import star from, you don't need to use the module name. But if you don't say import star from, what you have to do, if you just like this, if you do an import like this, then you have to use the module name colon. This is the syntax. Fine. So I always prefer to use import star from so that I can use directly. Fine. But I don't want all the functions to be imported. I want only one function to be imported or one variable to be imported. What is that? Suppose if I want to import only get offer price. So what I can do is I can simply say import get offer price. See, only get offer price will be imported. We get offer price, it is giving an error. So I will use this function to call. That will work. But again, I feel that this function name is too big. I want to give an alias while importing. I can, of course, do by using as GOP. I gave an alias. Then simply I can use GOP instead of the function name. So now we understood how to write custom dataweave modules where we can define our own variables and functions. If you want any function or variable to be reused, then you can define a custom module like this. And then you understood how to import your modules and how to call functions or variables in that. Very simple. Okay. One more important thing I want to discuss now. Very, very important thing. As I told you, actually, a variable, right? Let me just maximize this and show you here. Okay, this is the preview. Let me just step by step tell you. Hey, there's a function called as upper. Upper is a function, a predefined function the value to be in uppercase, you can use upper O. Better I'll use it for string. Payload.name is a string. I'll call upper function and pass the payload.name. You can see the payload name is in uppercase. Hey, but where is this function defined? I didn't import anything, but where is this defined? So what I will do is I'll press Control on my keyboard and hover my mouse over to upper and click on it. See, it has opened a file called as core.dwl. Where is this core.dwl present? Inside a jar file called as wlang2.5.1.jar dw/core.dwl. Actually, this core.dwl is called as a core module. And there are a lot of functions defined inside this core module. If you go through this entire file, there are a lot of functions defined, right? So here you can see there's a function. Let me again press Control, click from here. I want you to again see Control and click on it. Yes. So this is the definition of an upper function. If you want to use any function defined in this core module, you don't need to import. By default, all the functions in this core module are imported. Okay, fine. You can see that this function upper takes one argument of type string, and return value of this upper also is a string. But here, the implementation of this function is not written. They are calling something called as a native. This is the syntax to call any native functions defined. So in dataweave, they have written some native functions, and they are calling this. You will not see the exact logic within this file, but you will see a logic where they are calling native functions. Look at any of these functions. All these functions, these are function called as trim. They are calling native function, right? So whatever functions are defined in core module, you don't need to import. So fine. Now that you understood, just in earlier lecture, I told you, you can use a variable to point to a function also, right? Can I use like this? I'll create a variable called as my upper is equals to upper. So upper is a function, right? I'm storing it in a variable. Now, can I use this variable just like a function call? Yes. I can use and I'll get the same output as well. Upper. It is just like using upper. So remember this. Okay. Fine. A variable can point to a function. I can initialize a variable like this using a function, and I can use it. Clear. Now let us talk about how one function can take another function as an argument. That is very interesting and very important. See here. What I want to do is I want to write my own function for format. So I will write like this. Fun. Format data. This is a function name I want. And I want it to take input. I'll just write my input. And second argument, I want it to be a function type. I will write my formatter is equals to, I'm expecting second argument to be a function. Okay, so I'll use my formatter of my input. This is simple function I wrote. Let us see how to use it. So right now I want to comment out this expression. How to comment /* //. This is a comment. Fine. Now I'll just write a simple string, Siva. This is the output. Fine. Now I want to pass this string as an first argument to this function and a function. Second argument should be a function. So what I will do is I'll write format data. I'll call this format data and pass Siva, comma, second argument I am passing upper. Did I see the value upper? So let us try to understand actually what is happening. This is very important. This is the function definition which I have used. And then while calling, how am I calling? There is a call, function call. Fine. Actually, whenever I'm making a function call, what will happen? First argument will be copied into this variable. My input is a variable, and my input will be having Siva. Second argument, my formatter also is a variable, but now it will be pointing to upper. Upper is a function. As I told you, a variable can point to a function. Now this my formatter variable is pointing to a function. And I'm just using that variable just like a function call and passing the input. Simple, right? So variable is pointing to a function and I'm using that variable. Fine. Now, you understood how to this. Similarly, can I pass lower? Let me pass it like capital. So you can see, yep. See, lower is applied. I can pass any function as an argument here. Okay. Actually, as my first argument is string, there are a lot of functions in a module called as strings module. Let me show you how to use those string functions. So to use any module, first you need to import. I will use import from dw : core : I'll write import, not from, not required, : See, these are all the modules available in core strings. So I imported it. I didn't use import star from. Okay. So now let us see how I can use various functions. I'll comment this out. I will write strings : and press control space. Okay. You can see various lambdas. Lambdas are nothing but functions. So in functional style programming language, we call a function also as a lambda function. So these are all the functions defined in strings module. Let me just show you simple things like is lowercase. Is lowercase. I'll pass. It is saying false. Now I'll say I'll pass Siva. It is true. So if you want to see if a string is in lowercase or not, this is a function. This function is returning Boolean. Where is this function defined? I'll again press Control and hover my mouse over like this. Click on it. See, right now I'm in strings.dwl under dw core folder. Is lowercase is a function which is taking string and returning Boolean. Here the implementation also is calling a native function. Fine. Okay. Now, just like this, if I press string : you can see various functions. For example, if I say capitalize, given an example, nice documentation. See, suppose if I pass customer underscore first underscore name, let us see what will happen. Capitalize, and I have to pass string. See the preview right now. First letter of every word is capitalized. You can even have spaces instead of underscores. First letter of every word is capitalized. Actually, there are a lot of functions, right? It is not practically what it is doing. Basically, if you see the documentation, if you click here and see the documentation, you can see the documentation of every function and understand it. So remember, whenever you want to transform a string to some format, you want to format some strings, then remember that there is a module called as strings module, and there are functions inside strings module. Just write strings : and press Control space and see the function name. Names itself will tell you. For example, substring. First argument is string, and second argument is from and until. I think it's self-explanatory, right? Suppose if I give first argument Siva, press the string, and I want a substring starting from second index to sixth index. See what? Starting from second index, 0, 1, 2 is second index, VA, and up to 6 indexes, up to P, I think. Yeah, here it is. Even the space also is considered as a string. So if you want a substring, this is a one. Just by seeing the name of the function, you will understand, right? I highly encourage you to just go through the documentation once. Even I don't remember, to be very frank, all the functions. Whenever I want to do some string manipulation, okay, I know that there is a strings module. I just go and check if there is any appropriate function for that, right? Okay, fine. Now we understood about it. Now what I want is, I want you to understand one more very important thing. You need to master this in dataweave. See, this function is taking 2 arguments, right? How I call this function? Function name, first argument, second argument. So in dataweave, if there is a function which takes 2 arguments, there is another syntax to call a function. First argument, Siva, string, okay? Space, function name, format, data, space, second argument. See, has to call a function. Many people or many documentation, many blogs say that this is a syntax, but this is not a syntax. Think clearly. This is a function call. This is a way to call a function which is taking 2 arguments. If a function is taking 3 arguments, you cannot use this syntax. If a function is taking 2 arguments, call a function like this: first argument, space, function name, space, second argument. Okay. If you master this, data will be very easy. We are going to use this letter again and again. Okay. Fine. Now, when I see here this function which I define, should be a string or a number or a date. And how does somebody understand that second argument is a function? So we can define a function and we can say that the arguments are strictly typed. So I want to specify the first argument type as string. I have to use like this syntax like this, my input colon string. So here I am telling this my input is a first argument, it is of type string. But then how to tell second argument as a function? See the syntax. I want second argument to be a function which takes a string and returns string. Okay. Which takes a string and returns string. So how? These are to define. String and returns string. This is the syntax. So here, if somebody is reading this, they'll understand, okay, second argument is a function. Let me just show you here the syntax. Second argument is a function which takes a string and returns a string. Is this lower? Taking string and returning string? Yes. Hey, but one thing I want you to understand here, in code.dwl, there is one more function called as lower, which will take null and return null. Don't you think this is function overloading? Yes, if you know some object-oriented programming, you know that this is function overloading. Function name is same, but argument types and return types are different. Yes, there are overloaded functions. Now, here when I am calling, I'm passing this function. This function is that lawyer which takes string and return string? Yes. But when I am calling a same function like this, it is giving an error because this lower function is overridden, right? So when your second argument is a overloaded function, this syntax may not work. This is giving an error, right? Fine. That you need to keep in your mind. So now you understood how to pass typed arguments to a function. Okay. Now let us talk about a very, very, very important thing. How to use a predefined functions. I want to filter out. Let me tell you my examples here. A very interesting example. Let's assume that I have a variable which is of type array, where numbers yeah, this is an array containing some numbers. Now I will use this variable. Now what I want is I want to filter out only even numbers in this array. I want an array which contains even numbers only. I want to do filtering of elements from this array. To do that, there is a function called as filter. Actually, if you want to be a good developer, without knowing anything also, you should be able to write the code. I'm going to tell you the technique, right? So I know that there's a function called as filter, but I don't know how to use it. So what I will do is, I know that here, what is the requirement? I have an array of numbers and I want only even numbers. So I want a function which can filter and give me only even numbers. So I know that there's a function called as filter. So what I will try to do is I will write filter and press Control and click on it. So you can see that in core module, there's a function called as filter. First argument is of type array. You can clearly see that first argument is of type array and array of t, array of something, array of numbers or array of strings. They're giving it as a template, array of t. First argument is of type array. Second argument, what is the second type? Do you see now? Second argument is a function which will take item as a first argument. See, if this is array of t, what is the type of first argument? T. Second argument is index, is of type number. And what will this function return? Boolean. Okay. And what is the return type of filter? It is an array again, a filtered array. The logic is inside a native function. They are calling native. That is okay. Now I'll try to call this filter function. Okay. First argument is array. Second argument is a function which takes item comma index. Fine. Now let me keep it here. Filter. First argument is array. So I'll pass numbers. Come on. Second argument is a function whose return type is, where is it? Whose return type is, let me click on this. Why am I not going to, oh, here it is. Yeah. So see here, the filter function second argument is a function which takes item comma index and return a boolean. So I will write a function, one criteria function. What the function should take? Item comma index. Item comma index. And it should return a boolean is equals to, I am writing the function definition. What I want this criteria function to determine is if the item, whatever is passed, is it a even number or odd number? Here is a technique. Actually, there's a predefined function called as modulus, which will give the modulus. Modulus, I'll give item, comma, 2. Okay, so first of all, let me try to use this modulus function. Modulus of 11, comma 2. What it will do? What it will give? See, it will give me 1 modulus. When 11 is divided by 2, 1 is a remainder. If I give 12, what is the modulus? 0. Fine. So if modulus is 0, that means it is even. Otherwise, odd is equals to 0. If I write, it will give me a boolean. Is it? So modulus of the item when divided by 2 is equals to 0. If I write like this is the return value. For making it clear, let me keep this in a parenthesis. This is the entire expression. So criteria function, what is it doing? It is returning true or false, a boolean. If the item passed, the first argument is even, then it will return true, else false. So this is the criteria function, right? So I wrote a function which is taking item comma index and returning a boolean. Then what I will do is I'll call the filter function. What is the first argument to filter function? Array. I pass. Second argument, I'll pass criteria function. I'll copy this. Now see, did I get an array of even numbers only? Yes. Right? So actually, what this filter function will do, let us see. I'll copy this function definition and I will try to explain the pseudo logic. You need to understand this clearly. So what is implementation of this function? Internally in the implementation, it will be looping through for each. See, what is the first argument? Name of the first argument is items. I think I'll copy this again and paste it. So I will have only the important things here. Fine. What is the first argument name? Item. So what this filter internal logic will do is it will iterate over each item in items. For each item in items, what it will do, it will call criteria and pass the current item, comma, the index. So whenever we are iterating over this array, we'll be having index, right? They'll pass it. It is passed. What is the return type of this criteria function? It's a boolean. Is true. Right. So now, actually before for loop, there will be a variable declared where filtered array or filtered items. initially it will be an empty array. If is true, that means if the criteria function is returning true, then what? Filtered item plus current item. So like this, what the logic inside filter function is doing, it is iterating over each item. For each item, it will call the criteria function. If the criteria function is returning true, then to the filtered items, it is added. And then finally, the filtered items is returned, right? This is a pseudo logic. Fine. So now I want you to understand that the second argument filter function is a function, right? I got the output, but why to define a function separately and call this? Anyway, I'm sure that this function definition is used at only one place. So what I can do is I can here itself define a function as an anonymous function. See how I'm doing? I'm passing a function which will take item comma index and return the same value. Yes, I got the same. Now I don't need this function separately. Can delete it. So while calling a function, the second argument, I created an anonymous passing it, right? So I'm passing a function in another function call, right? So that's it. Now, you know that while calling a function, if a function is taking two arguments, there is another syntax also. First argument, space, function name, space, second argument. Yes, so this is the expression. I'm calling a function called as filter. First argument is an array, second argument is a function. We call it return. This is a function definition which will return a Boolean. Okay. Now, if I want array of even numbers, sorry, odd numbers, I just write not equals to 0. See, I got array of, I filtered odd numbers, right? This is how filtering will work. Now I think clearly you're getting why one function needs to take another function as an argument. Very good. So now let us talk about one more important function called as Orderby. See, I have these numbers, and in this array, I have numbers which are not in either ascending or descending. So I want this array to be ordered in ascending order. That is one requirement. But before that, before actually showing this example, let me make it even more easy. I'll create an array where words is equals to. I want words to be an array which will contain strings Siva, Prasad, apple, tea, and Mulesoft. Okay, fine. This is an array. Now what I want is this array, I want to sort based on the size of the string. Actually, I want to tell you there's a function called as size of. If I pass size of Siva, it will give me 4 because there are 4 letters. Size of is a predefined function. If I pass a string, it will give me size of the string. If I pass an array, it will give the size of an array. Fine. Now you know that. Now what I want is I want this array to be sorted, not alphabetically. I want this array to be sorted based on the size of the string. Okay. So how? There is a function called as Orderby. Let us see what this Orderby takes. Orderby, actually, there are overloaded Orderby. This Orderby, the first argument is of type object. It's object, right? But if I go up or if I go down, there is one more overloaded function Orderby, which will take array. I'm interested in this. So first argument is an array, and second argument is a function which will take item comma index and return R. Orderby also will finally return an array. What is this actually? What is this function? If I go through documentation, you will understand actually. But let me try to explain this. Orderby, first argument is an array, and it should return a sorted array. But for sorting elements inside an array, the elements should be comparable, right? They should be comparable. Can I compare 10 with 5? Yes. Can I compare a string apple with bill? Alphabetical comparison can be done, right? A is less than B. Alphabetical comparison can be done between strings. Numbers, of course, we can compare. Actually, the criteria function return type is a comparable object. Can be a number or a string or something which can be compared. So what this Orderby will do is, for each element, for each item inside this array, what it will do, it will call the criteria and pass the item comma index. This will return a comparable object, right? Based on this comparable object, the logic inside Orderby will order it. Okay. So now let me try to put it practically here. So here, Orderby, first argument is an array. I'll pass words. Second argument is a function which will take item comma index. From now, I'll pass the functions directly here as anonymous or lambdas. The function is taking item comma index, and it should return a comparable object. Now, I want to compare based on the size of the string, right? I will return size of item, the current item. Let us see now the preview. Wow. First one is having size 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. Is that? So I'm able to sort. So whatever this criteria function, I'm defining a criteria function, right? It is returning size of item. So this is a comparable object. Size of returns number, right? It's a comparable object. Based on that values, it is sorting. What if I want to reverse this order? Can I write minus here? Say, right? See, let's assume what is size of high? 2. If I make it as minus 2, right? The order will come down. 2 greater than minus 2, right? The order will come down, the reverse. Right? Minus 8, the size of this Mulesoft is 8. Minus 8 is actually lesser than minus 2. So the order is reversed. Now you know how to reverse, is it? Now, how to reverse these numbers? It looks very simple. What I'll use other syntax. Numbers, first argument, order by. Second argument, I'll take item, comma, index. And right now, as these are already numbers, I can so directly returning the number. So I got sorted array. And if I want to reverse the array, minus item, simple. That's your logic, how you define, right? So now we understood how to use order by as well. And one thing is you understood how to how to pass anonymous functions as second arguments. Right. Lot. Okay, fine. Now, one thing I want to tell you, whenever you're writing a lambda function, this is a lambda function, right? Second argument is a function. I can say it an anonymous function. First argument name is item, second argument is index, and I'm not using index here, right? Fine. Now what I can do is I'll show you summarized version of it. I can use same thing like this, numbers, order by. Okay. Second argument, I need to define a function which will take argument names. Okay. Can I give like this? My item. It is my own name, right? My index. And I can return item. Sorry, my item. Whatever argument names I'm using same thing here, right? Fine. But now the question is, why should I even give the argument names? I know that this functions two arguments. So if I don't want to give argument names, I can use dollar. Dollar represents first argument, just like this. Dollar represents index. If I'm passing index, it is ordering based on the index only. Same array I got. If I pass dollar, dollar is the first argument. That means item is equals to dollar. In this case, index is equals to dollar. Okay. So if the second argument is a function which will take two arguments, when you want to actually give a function definition, you can of course give the argument names, and after that arrow, and after that you can write your return value. But as a shortcut, if you don't want to give names to the arguments, you can directly write the return expression. The return expression you can directly write. Wherever you want to use a first argument, use dollar. Wherever you are using second argument, use dollar, right? But that said, actually many documentations, many tutorials, many videos, they are using dollar. When I see some expression like this, I feel like I am using a syntax. If you treat something like a syntax, you should remember it. I actually want to say that second argument is a function. I need to write some logic. So I don't encourage, or even Mulesoft doesn't encourage you to reuse dollars. That syntax is there if you need a shortcut. But this is the recommended approach. If somebody is seeing this logic, they'll understand, oh, second argument to order by is a function which will take item, comma, index. And it is returning this one. But if you write like this, dollar, nobody, of course, they will understand, but it is not very clear. You will start thinking of this like a syntax. Start thinking in a functional way. You'll get all the logic. You'll be able to write complex logic also very simply if you start thinking in terms of functions. Always, this is a preferred one. Even if somebody is seeing your code, they will understand. Maybe initially it will take a little bit of time to get habituated to this syntax, but once you start writing it, you will see the difference, right? So fine. Now you understood how to actually use this order by, filter, etc. Now, see here, what I want to do is, I want the numbers to be filtered first. So I'll apply filter function. I got only these odd numbers. And then output of filter function, I want to give it as input to order by. Can I do like this? Can I do like this? This is the output of filter. Order by. The logic, whatever I want to order by in descending order. So I'll pass this. See, did I get in descending order? If I remove this minus, I'll get in ascending order. So what I want you to understand is the output of filter function can be chained as input to order by. Hey, this function chaining, this is called as function chaining. This is possible because you are using this syntax: first argument space function name space second argument. As you are allowed to write a function call in this fashion, right? See the output of filter. This is the output of filter became an input to order by. Filter chaining is possible. Okay. Now, can you use filter chaining if a function takes single argument? See, order by is taking two arguments. First argument space function name, second argument. If a function is taking two arguments, then only you can use that function in chaining fashion. But what if you want to use a function which takes only single argument in chaining fashion? For example, lower or upper. How do you call upper? Upper of some string. Sorry. Upper of some string. What is this? Okay, I guess this is not commented here. Fine. Upper of this. Upper function does not take two arguments, right? So can I use like this? Siva space upper. No, right? It's giving an error. So how to actually somehow I want to use this upper, a function which is taking single argument. Also, I want to use it in chaining fashion. There is a simple technique. What I will do is simple. I can define a function like this. Fun. I can write my chain. Let it take some input, like say my input, comma, my function. I'll write is equals to my func of my input. Okay. Now I wrote a function which will take two arguments. So can I use like this? First argument space my chain space lower. Am I getting lower? Okay, good. Lower I'm able to use like this. Then output of lower, I want to pass it to upper. My chain upper. Yes. So I'm able to chain. Is it? So this is a technique of how to chain functions. If you are having a function which takes single argument, like upper or lower, you can define your own function like this, and you can write expressions in chaining fashion like this. Good, right? Too much of learning in this video. I want you to actually go through the document. So in my GitHub, you have a document. In day 14, there is a document, custom modules, function chaining, order by, filter, etc. I want you to go through this step by step and complete the exercise. Then only I want you to actually go through the next video. Okay, that's all. See you next lecture.